Tell me, so how broad are your swim lanes at Forbes? I mean, you're obviously a retail guru. You talk about everything from, home products to consumer electronics to fashion and apparel, beauty. But within, is it broader than that, or how do you sort of define those swim lanes?
Well, retail is like a $7 trillion industry in the US, so that's pretty broad. So I'm in retail, and I can talk about and write about and story tell all things retail. So typically my stories are going to have some type of retail focus in them, and that's kind of what my swim lane is.
Now, if someone were to pitch you on, say, hey, I've got something that's happening in the supply chain of retail,
Absolutely. That's part of retail. Absolutely. I actually have written a lot about supply chain.
And then tell me, like, sort of, and this is for people that are listening to this podcast that are saying, hey, I'd love to get covered. I got a great story. I'd love to be covered by Forbes, for example. They think they should be in Forbes. Like, what's the best way to sort of pitch you then if they're not going to, it's not a press release, if they want to give you the exclusive, like talk about that process.
Well, so it's interesting. So I get pitched all the time, and the ones that I usually ignore right away are like press releases, because that's something everyone gets.
Press releases are dead, basically, right?
Yeah. I mean, everyone gets it, and unless you're going to add to the story, it's really not a story. I think I really gravitate to pitches that are made to me that actually contain some aspect of a storytelling idea. So just saying, hey, do you want to interview this person? Not that interesting. But I have some people that actually pitch to me, I have this great story. Here's what's happening. Here's some data points. And then that becomes more interesting. So, and I also think about what interests me and what's going to interest my readers.
Do they keep it short? Does it keep it like a...
Oh, definitely keep it short. And
how many, like what, 100 words? 50 words?
Well, you can have more than 100 words, but, just a short pitch about what's the story, why is it important, and what are some of the key points around it. And I think that's where I really gravitate to interesting stories to write about.